as a VR player, we're very used to saying that we want flat screen games to come to VR. But as VR is now transitioning into this different phase of its life cycle, we are now seeing more and more VR games go to flat screen. I wish developers every success in everything they do. I know when it comes to the day of a review, I'm going to tell the truth, and sometimes I feel bad about that. But on the whole, I think developers who have supported VR over the years, especially ones like Vertigo, deserve every success. And most recently, I think the game that really caught my attention was Moss, going from VR to flat screen. And actually, I think because of the way the game is made, being a third-person platformer, puzzler, bit of action in there, it makes sense. I also think Vertigo Games, The Seventh Guest, going to flat screens. I mean, it was a flat screen game in the first place. If you haven't played it in VR, you absolutely should. It's a great game if you like puzzle games. It's not scary. I think some people were put off thinking it was scary. It's not scary at all, but it is creepy, which is really cool. That also is being transitioned into a flat screen game. I don't know if it's out yet. Might be. That made sense to me. Another one, Survios with Alien Rogue Incursion. When they made the flat screen version, I seriously thought that it would be very popular. People are quite hungry and love the Aliens franchise, but apparently it hasn't sold that well. And I say apparently, we're going to quickly take a look at the reviews, but in May this year, Survios laid off the majority of its development team, with some of the employees posting on LinkedIn that the studio is now essentially shuttered with all of its development staff let go. So yeah, interestingly, looking at the Evolved Edition, which is quite an ironic title really, you'd think VR would be the evolved version of it, like the more impressive technical version. It didn't get very good reviews. Only one site that I've never heard of gave it a 75. Everywhere else, PlayStation gave it a 60 out of 100. Some people are saying like it's 0, it was disgusting. But overall, it's sitting at an average score of 6, as the VR version got really good reviews. So I think there's a lot to be said there about you can't just take a VR game and make it a flat screen game, because what made it a good game in the first place was VR. That was the magic. So with Arizona Sunshine, when I watched the trailer, I was kind of thinking, this looks pretty mid. Like, this doesn't look a good game in general. If I've never heard of it before, I think the only thing that would have piqued my interest is the fact you can play it split screen. Like, you can actually sit there with someone in your house and play it together in co-op. That is a very cool feature, and I think that's something that's lost in a lot of games these days. So I wouldn't necessarily buy Arizona to play on split screen, but I can see the appeal of it. But to me, this game doesn't look very good on a flat screen. And I think when you leave the pool or the river of VR, right, the games available in VR, and you join the sea of flat screen games out there, you kind of have to have something pretty special to stand out amongst the crowd. And there's no doubt that it will cost the developers some time to make it a flat screen game, and it looks like Vertigo have actually put some effort into this. You know, you can suddenly control Buddy, or it looks like you can control Buddy from a third person, and making the whole game third person must be quite difficult. But I seriously think when the game releases, it won't be popular, and I could be wrong. I could absolutely be wrong, but from someone who plays flat screen games, and I love flat screen games, I have every console, I play all the games that you can think of really. As someone on the outside looking in, I already know the game in VR. This isn't a game I would personally be interested in, and I probably wouldn't wishlist it. And I don't mean that to be negative on Vertigo. I've got no doubt actually that now chances are Metro Awakening will eventually go to flat screen, and I'm very surprised that isn't the game they're doing it with more than Arizona. But maybe the owners of the franchise, Deep Silver, don't want the VR version on flat screens, because primarily the Metro series is actually developed by a studio called 4A Games, and they've also just announced a brand new Metro game. But I get it, Arizona Sunshine is a huge brand for them, it's a huge franchise, but I just can't see it working. I really worry that the developers are going to double down on flat screen because they want extra success on top of the success they've had in VR, but it just won't translate. You know, and I kind of wonder whether that money that they're investing into these flat screen games, they could have actually made a new VR game, for example, or an Arizona Sunshine 3. I don't really know how Arizona Sunshine 2 sold, and I don't know how Arizona Sunshine Remake sold, but in my opinion, they were very solid VR games. Graphically, I thought they looked brilliant. Very much enjoyed playing them all over again, and I hope you guys thought the same. But it's just interesting that at one point, everything was flat to VR, and now it's VR to flat. And I think I just wanted to make this video as like a point in history. You know, this is a transition I never thought I'd see. I just didn't think it. I thought we're going to get more hybrid games. So, for example, I'm just going to speak on my own game that I'm working with, ExoShock. That's going to be VR and flat. It's going to be both. And you can play it cross-platform. Maybe we'll get it on Steam Deck. I can't remember what the guys said. They probably will try and get it working on Steam Deck. But, I mean, it could be coming to Nintendo Switch, Steam Frame, Steam Machine. I think if you just put out a standalone version of a game to flat screen, that's a different beast altogether. Because what they could have done is made Arizona Sunshine a game that can be played on flat screen and online with VR players, and then you're increasing the player base. To me, that makes sense. They could be doing that, but I don't think they are. And I genuinely believe we're going to see more of this. We're going to see some of the biggest games. For example, imagine if Horizon Call of the Mountain come to a flat screen. I think that would be a pretty big title. I don't know whether flat screen gamers would be happy with just traversing mountains though. That's kind of what that game is all about. I'd say 80% of that game is climbing. In VR, it feels quite special because it feels like there's risk, you know, when you're making the jumps. Graphically, it looked incredible, but the combat itself was very limited. You know, you were stuck in like this weird 360 play area where you just moved around the outside. And I just find it interesting that developers are now considering bringing some of our VR's biggest titles to a flat screen and hoping they get success. I do hope they get success, but I only really hope they get success because maybe they'll make more VR games. Could be wrong on all of this. Arizona Sunshine might be a huge pusher for Vertigo Games, and suddenly we'll now lose another VR developer. And we don't even know if they're making any other VR titles. But I'd imagine a significant portion of their developers are now, as I said, they've done Seventh Guest and now Arizona Sunshine, and I imagine it won't be the last that we'll see happen. But I think Alien Rogue Incursion, the Evolved Edition, is kind of like a signal. It might not work. You know, I think there's a lot to be said for what VR brings to a game. And I think that's why lots of people think about flat to VR. You play a game, even like Doom 3, for example, which Team Beef fantastically bought to VR. It was better in VR. Doom 3 was one of the best games I played when I first got a PC, and then playing it in VR was like breathtaking. It was amazing. But I don't know if it can work the same way backwards, you know, in reverse. So if you look at more recent releases like RoboQuest and Flat 4, VR Total Insanity from Flat to VR Studios, I think they've done an absolutely incredible job porting these games that were meant to be played on a flat screen into VR. And the reason I say that is when you actually get to play these games in a headset, you would not know they were originally flat screen games. I also want to point out most of these games developed first for flat screens tend to have better graphics, more so than native VR games. And only yesterday I made a video on a super cheap early access title called Fate Keeper. Sure, I was using UEVR, and it will take some time for the UEVR profile to go to 6th off, but visually it's a pretty stunning game. And for some people, they just enjoy playing VR games sitting down with a controller in their hand. And I just wanted to bring it up today that that's happening, and it's happening in a big way by the looks of it. We're going to see more of it. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on this, how you guys feel about it. And I just wanted to kind of document it in history of VR on this channel that that's actually happening, and it's happening more and more. So yeah, I look forward to hearing your thoughts, and I'll see you on the next one.